All right. Welcome to episode 16 of the Soul's Kitchen podcast. I'm Lisa Wilby. I'm here with Mary Ellen Landry, who is a realtor and health coach. So, welcome, Mary Ellen.
Thank you for having me,
Oh
Lisa.
my gosh, I'm so happy to have you here. And I know you're a realtor, so you're kind of doing the thing. You're in your car. You're probably between
Yeah,
appointments. So
yeah, pretty much.
I
Yeah.
appreciate your time. And definitely today. And so we're talking to people who are living their soul's purpose or desire. I've known you for a while.
Mhm,
More recently, you became a realtor, but before that, and still are a health coach.
mhm.
Tell us what you're doing, what you do.
Yeah, so I work with Keller Williams Capital Realty,
Mm-hmm.
and this is my full-time
Mm-hmm.
position, if you will. And I like to think of it as being my sunset career. I'm 56 this year, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel that it's kind of an accumulation of all the roles I've had in my career, which vary from health to
Mm.
education, and a few other. I mean, believe it or not, I even sold Hyundais for Frederick and Hyundai before I moved into real estate. And I really love this role.
Mm-hmm.
It's about need fulfillment. It's not just a transaction for me.
Mm.
I work with a lot of seniors. I love that segment of our community. Um, and the health coach piece, I mean, I come from a background of a kines background. Back in the day, we called it a physical education degree. We didn't call it
Right.
kines.
Okay.
Um, and I've been in that space for most of my life in one way or another,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was personal training out in Vancouver to, yeah, I still teach group fitness at the Y. I've been teaching for over
Right.
38 years.
Wow.
And I teach alongside of my amazing husband on Tuesday and Thursday, our group power group at the Y,
Mm-hmm.
and that keeps me out of trouble. So the health piece is, of course, something I embody for myself, but I do have a passion to share it with others.
Mhm.
And when John and I started SLS Health Coaching, it stands for Sustainable Lifestyle Solutions, and it was
Mhm.
really from a place of seeing people around us, close and not, that were suffering,
Mhm.
and that we understood that there's such a agency we could have over our health. There's no absolute, but we
Mhm.
have agency over our vibrancy, our ability to thrive once we have the information.
Right.
And that's part like where my education comes. I want to be able to tell people, and I always ask the question, why? Like, why?
Mhm.
And I want to know. Like when I was teaching fitness, I want to be able to tell people where they should feel it, how their body
Mhm.
moves in space. What's the benefit? Instead of just doing something and not really knowing why.
Right. Okay. I like that. So because I think when people know their why, um, you can do a lot. You can do a lot more because you have a purpose, I guess, in other
Yeah.
words. So how do
Yeah.
you get people, do you find people come to you? Do they know their why when you're teaching fitness at the why? At the why. Do they know their
Why
why
at
at
the
the why?
why?
Yeah.
Well, I think in the group atmosphere, which I enjoy, there's a sense of community, and
Mhm.
people are there in group. Like I do programs from a company called MOSA, and
Okay.
MOSA means it's Let's Move. Like it's all about group, and we're
Okay.
successful in group and community and connection.
Mhm.
So the why for some people is it's a social part. Like we'll start class and we're like, John and I'll look at each other like, I think this we should just hand out cocktails. People are just
Right, talking.
socializing.
Yeah.
And that's good because that's what we need. Connection's so important, and we've lost that through devices and a pandemic. So I think connection is a big thing
Mhm.
I'm loving.
Mhm.
So health really, why? I mean, a big chunk of it can come from our food. Our a big chunk of it
Mm.
can come from our sleep. It can come from our stress. It's a full picture of health.
It's so many
And
things, yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
And starting with people where they're at, I think is important.
Mhm.
Um, knowing, it's never an all or nothing. If
Right.
people are venturing into something and they're making an effort, that's a really good and first important step to recognize they want to do something to improve their well-being. But getting back to your question of why, and we would ask that, why is
Yeah.
that important to you? So I can get down on the ground and play with my grandchildren, so I
Mhm.
can sustain a long day of work. So I
Right.
whatever their priority is and their needs are, that drives people to sustain healthier habits.
Yeah, I like when you say that sustainability, because I think a lot of times, when I hear like New Year's resolutions or dry January or all of these things, they feel like false starts to me because there's
Yeah.
sort of one thing they're trying to do for 1 month and they get over it or get through it, and then they continue with their previous behavior. So I
Yeah.
always like the idea of just small steps taking you to a
Hmm.
longer, more better commitment, because it's
Hmm.
sustainable when you're not.
Correct.
Yeah, that's how I look at
Sustain.
it.
Yeah, so sustainable, and it's a long game.
It
And
is a long
because when
game.
people, like you say, they go into the January mode of
Mm,
resolutions, and they even say exercise, they
mm.
do way too much, and then they injure themselves. They haven't
Right?
really built up, muscular
Yeah.
awareness. So it's a long game, and health
Mhm.
is a long game. And when people fall away from it, it's like, well, I might as well go back to what I was doing. So the coaching part is, there's a lot of psychology into that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So how do you
yeah.
motivate people to that's it, yeah, like you said, the coaching part, and I've talked to a couple coaches on this show, so I always love to hear perspectives on how you do that. How do you talk to people about, you're not gonna lift 150 pounds today. We're gonna start with 5, or I don't know how you do it.
It's kind
Can
of
you
like the book from James Clear, Atomic Habits. These things that
Okay.
are building blocks, or
Mm.
1% better. Like, those are the changes that add up.
Mhm.
And it's, maybe it's a vision board they create, or you really
Mm.
have a deep conversation with people about what would it look. It's pain pleasure. We used to use the pain pleasure quadrant. The pain
Mhm.
of doing it, the pain of not doing it, the pleasure of doing it, the pleasure of not doing it, and get people to get really granular with that.
Mm.
And some people we've coached had really great success, but they didn't have the support around them. So
Mm.
there's that other piece of community where, if they've chosen, we're plant-based, so we have a plant-based health coaching background. So from the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutritional Studies, and we've spent a lot of hours in digging into this space. Is It's not all or nothing. But it's building these habits. And we did cooking classes in our home. That was a sense of
Mhm.
community, but it showed people how to do it, so it's not hard and it tastes amazing.
Right.
Like, so how do you? But it was the conversations we would have in the kitchen, Soul's
Mhm.
Kitchen, no pun
Yeah.
intended, that
And
people would share that, well, my husband or my partner, my whatever, my family, don't want to do this with me, or I have to cook 5 different meals. It's like, well, hold on. First of all,
mm.
cook one meal, and if they don't like it, you're on your
Well,
own.
and it's also about adding in, like, sometimes I wanna drink more water. So instead of saying I'm gonna eliminate all this stuff, I just start drinking more water, and naturally
Yeah,
other stuff starts to kind of fall away. So that's sometimes.
I love
Yeah.
that. Because
Yeah.
we would say too, it's like, not as much as what you remove is what you add.
Mm.
So add another serving vegetables,
Vegetable.
add another
Yeah.
glass of water, add an apple. What you add, certainly in
Mhm.
that space, makes a
Mhm.
difference too. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's not hard. It's not. People have this. It's this hard approach. It has to be hard. It doesn't have to be. It's going to be change. And I think the bottom line comes down to, if they don't want to change, and we've seen cues that
Mhm.
we hear and see when we're coaching, is like, you're not ready. Oh no, I
Right.
am. I am not. You're not. You're not ready to let go.
Well,
So
that's
they have
an
to.
interesting thing, like, that you would have to say as a coach to tell someone that. Um,
Yeah.
I suppose somewhere in deep in the inside they wanna be ready, but maybe they're just not. Or the
Mhm.
fact that they do that with you and that's their thing, and then the rest of the week, I don't know. they're not.
Well, here's what it comes down to, I think, too,
Yeah.
is who is it they're going to become? It's letting
Mm,
go of the security, like our base
mm,
needs of security. So who am I without 100 pounds? Who am I without, so that it's that foundation that it shakes them, that
oh,
will I
yeah.
have the same, maybe you don't have the same friends you hang around, because that would encourage going back into habits you don't want to. So there's a lot of uncertainty.
That's so true. And there's fear there, like of like you said, you get used to who you are, and then you're going to become someone different, and what's your life going to look like, and then instead of
Right,
thinking it's going to be good, you don't know, so you're not you haven't done it enough to trust that it's going to be okay, I
right.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's yeah, that's awesome. So in your health coaching, like you're looking after people, but in your slogan for your real estate is I will take care of you. And
yeah.
I saw that and I thought that's a really nice, way. And I know, like, I have realtors in my family, so I know what you guys do. Like, you do take care of people. You're helping people sometimes find their first home, or, help them to take the steps to get a home. So still helping people. So talk about, and you said you like to work with seniors a lot. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know what it is, but intrinsically, I'm drawn to seniors.
Mm,
And they're a segment of our community I feel first and foremost need to be respected and honored. The
yes.
wisdom, right, that goes with the life they've led. And then ageism, unfortunately, is a
Hmm.
thing. But I just feel the conversations are so rich and deep when
Mm,
it comes to the seniors I work with. I mean, often it's selling their home. I've seen myself. I was in a home in the city. I might even get emotional now because it gets me there. Her husband passed.
mm-hmm,
They both did our cooking class. He passed. Her family's in the States, and she moved to the United States to be with her family. And I remember walking in the house to check on it before closing, and she had this piano, and she had a baby grand. She's a piano teacher,
mm, mm-hmm,
and it was still there. Like, she was able, and but
mm-hmm,
I looked around, and what you see are memories. You see
mm-hmm,
a family, you see a life. I find in the senior homes I'm in, it's
mm,
like, and then it's these walls, these four walls, or there's a lot of emotion there. And
mm-hmm.
for a lot of them, it is emotional. It's hard to let go. Sometimes these family homes are, 35, 40 years they've lived
Mhm,
there.
mhm,
So, it takes extra time. And I really, I don't, shouldn't say mind it. I want to spend extra time.
mhm,
It's because
right.
they need that extra time. Whether it's just the overwhelm of, imagine unpacking an entire life, or packing it up, purging and
Yeah,
deciding what to do. So these things,
mhm,
these are really special moments. And it's not just for that part of our population, but also for those it's their first home.
right,
I might do this every day, but it's their first home. So how
right,
do I take care of them? I often will ask them, what is it you need from me? What is it you
right,
want from your realtor, so that I
mhm,
can be nimble and adapt to them? If they're
mm,
young and savvy on technology, well, then we can work with how they like to be,
right,
communicated with or talked to, or
mhm,
but at the end of the day, taking care of them to me means above and beyond, before and after the transaction.
right,
How do you stay in touch? What do you need from me? I had somebody reach out who
right,
sold. I hate to bother you again. I was like, you're not bothering me.
mhm,
This is something you need. Yeah, I have it on file. I'll email it to you right away.
right,
So taking care of somebody might also be like my sellers that have to be out of the house. I'll give them a $50 gift certificate for the Abbey Cafe. Go have some
mhm,
supper,
right,
and because that's stressful for people too. Like, they have to be out of the house. They got a dog. That's
right,
a
to organize all that.
tumultuous time when you're in the showing phase. So what is it I can do to help put them at ease, or show them that I'm taking care of them?
Um, and while you were speaking, I was thinking of something because you mentioned community a couple times. And I'm thinking, realtors are quite a big part of our community. Like, you see the signs up all the time. You're helping people transition into and out of a way of life. I know you care because I know you, and I can tell even by
Yeah.
the way you're speaking. And I mean, it's so, it's so comforting to know, because I think when people think of a realtor, maybe you think of a person doing a transaction, but it's so much more than that. And
Hmm.
again, back to community. Sorry, I got off on a tangent there, but you're kind of creating a community too, because you're moving people in and out of communities. You're part of their community now, like you said, and they might even use you again the next time if they decide to move or not move, especially when you're working with elderly people. Like, one of the things you talked about was how we don't have, like, we move them into homes.
Yeah.
And talk about what you were talking about before we press record with the blue zones and the one of
Mhm.
the yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I sit on the Pine Grove Foundation board.
Mhm, mhm,
My grandmother was at Pine Grove. Um, it's a wake up call when you walk into a long term care home. Let me tell you.
mhm, mhm,
One thing I can say about Pine Grove is they have a really great approach with
mhm.
their people.
Right.
Um, but in our community in Fredericton and in North America, like if I think about multi generational
Mm,
families,
mhm,
we could use that approach here, um, to keep people longer in their homes. Because what we do know, again, from my health background, is that when people start, like if you have a couple, one passes, the isolation
mhm,
is the beginning of their decline. So if they were able to move into a place that had community, like you see in the city with St. Anne's Court or Paradise
mhm,
Villa or Windsor Court, those they have
mhm,
activities, they eat together, there's that sense of
mhm,
community. But if we could keep people in their own homes longer with multi-generational living, where the adult parents are in a garden home or living
mhm,
with the children, finding their own sense of purpose. Maybe I know in the blue zones, these elders are revered, and
mm.
they raise the children as well as the parents. As they say, it takes
Yeah,
a
it's
village, and they really live that. And so the density of centenarians in the blue zones of the world, the work from Dan Boutner, it comes from many things, but it's that sense of community and multi-generational families.
right. It's not just the food or
No,
the activity, but even just walking, even just walking with your family. There's
sense of
a movement,
purpose.
a sense of purpose, and just a movement. Yeah, you're right. I think, like, we've lost that in this, and I don't know how we're gonna change it, but with
There's opportunities. I think, we'd have to think broader.
mhm,
Um, we do have a housing crisis. I mean, everybody who listens to the
mhm,
news would know that, but I mean, we need to
yeah,
think outside the box into how that could be supported in our communities. And
right,
I would like the opportunity, if it came to be my parents, thankfully, I'm blessed that they're still,
mhm,
living and in their own home. What would
right,
that look like though if one did pass? Would I create space for the other in my home? I guess it depends on them too. Some would say, no, you're not doing
yeah,
that, but that sense of community is a big part of what
of
I
that,
do too. And I think
right.
I keep coming back again to that word community. I think
Well,
I
I
value
think,
that.
yeah, I think, like, with your work, in your health work, with the food, your health coaching, you're working with people, finding people homes and seniors.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So, like, you said there's work to be done. Do you think, is there any initiatives going on right now around?
Yeah, well, there is,
Yeah.
and
Is
it's a
there?
hot topic. It's a
Oh,
hot topic.
can you tell us?
Sure. I mean, it's out
Yeah.
there. I mean, it's the new blanket zone bylaw changes that would allow up to 4 dwellings on a
Oh,
property.
yes.
Now, I'm
Right.
keeping it broad, um, but there's such an infrastructure in place for that it's not everybody is going to want to do it. Not everybody
Mhm,
has the means to do it. No,
mhm.
it's some lots that aren't big enough to, like, there's such an infrastructure that
Right.
the city is built around it, that it would create for somebody maybe downtown opportunity to put a garden home for their parents, or to
Mhm.
there's opportunities. We need to think broader
I
in
agree.
in these communities that we live in currently, that and look at models that have worked, to think about what that could look like without the doom and gloom that goes with it.
Right, right,
The the ability to just think of something different. It's
right,
okay. And it's that comes back to that, I think, that's insecurity we have, or that scarcity of, if it changes, then what?
right. And another thing I was thinking of too, and it's not really happening here yet. I think there's a couple of groups, but it's co-op housing. I know they have it in larger cities. I have some
Yeah.
friends who live in bigger cities, and they live in, and there's different formats of co-op housing. But that's
Yeah.
something like, as a single person myself, I wish sort of existed here, because I know a lot of my single friends were all living in these apartments or houses by ourselves, paying
Yeah.
enormous amounts of rent. But and we
Yeah.
want to, maybe we could live together, but we still want to have our own space. So
Yeah. Yeah. I've
a
seen that.
structure,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like a structure where you have your own room, but maybe your own bathroom, but you share a kitchen, but you want to have a space that if your family comes over or if you have a guest or whatever. So
Yeah.
something like that, a model would be amazing, because I don't think I'm alone in what I'm saying. I'm past the age where I want to have 15 roommates,
Yeah.
but I'd love
But then
to.
you don't necessarily want a detached home where you have to do the driveway yourself and mow the lawn
Right.
yourself and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Or
co-op
yeah,
housing has a lot of opportunities to,
even,
again, keep people connected.
yeah. So as a realtor, do you hear any buzzing around that kind of idea in this town, or not?
Um, Not really.
Okay.
I think I could broaden my horizons a bit. You get stuck in
Yeah.
the day to day, just focus on
Yeah.
your client. But, I was re-listening to the CREA, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association, their
Mhm.
forecast that was in January, just to remind myself of the sense of what's happening and what we see with housing,
Mhm.
and to be knowledgeable. They knew at that moment that this trade war situation could happen.
Mm.
It's unknown at this point what that's going to do to housing, but what we do know, and I just came from a listing appointment, and we're still in a seller's market, and we're a couple of years at least from being able to get caught up in inventory, so that there's, at least in this area, BC and Ontario are, not in the same type of market we're in, but here in the East Coast, here specifically in my market, Fredericton and area,
Mhm.
we're still in a seller's market overall. So we have lots of buyers. We've had interest rates come down. They're likely to level off based on what Korea was saying, that buyers could say, okay, that's probably where we're going to be at. Let's get back into the market. But what that
Mm.
does when we have a shortage of inventory is it doesn't create more inventory, it just creates more
Right.
competition.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
challenge for buyers. I feel for my buyers. I'm in it with them. I'm in there
Mhm.
when I have to make the call. I'm sorry you didn't get
Right.
the property.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's tough.
it
Um,
is.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, like, I know I don't know if we're off topic, but we're having just a good conversation. So, I'm thinking about that project, the 12 Neighbors project that exists here. And for those who don't know, it's a nonprofit where a independent person decided to build homes in clusters of 12, I believe, for people who needed housing.
Yeah.
And it took an independent, I guess where I'm getting at, I don't want to get too much in the politics of it, but an independent person to kind of start that up, which is amazing. They now have a community center with a cafe, and they have a print shop, and they're doing lots of things, like
Mm,
a real social enterprise. And I'm thinking there, so that we have that, and we just need something for people who maybe a little low income, yes, but again, folks like single people who just want to save on costs, and we want to have some kind of, like you said, or granny suites or whatever it is. So I don't know, who knows, who may be listening, you never know, might start. I think it's going to take somebody to
yeah.
start something.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
have heard the co-op housing
Hmm.
concept, and the I think the draw is, the economics of it, but once
Mhm.
again, like, it would pull in the people who are interested in the first place.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's like, I like this idea, and you have a community kitchen. I could see you in the kitchen, Lisa, teaching
Mhm.
people to cook healthy food,
Yeah.
or there's a group, sitting having their they're doing. I did macrame on the weekend. I was so excited to
Oh,
do something
wow.
with my hands with
Nice.
Janice at Maritime Macrame. I'm like, what can I do? And I did it with my
Okay.
clients, and it was enjoyable for me as well. So
Yeah.
the co-op housing piece, I think, is something that maybe is almost
I know there's
necessary.
yeah, I think so. There's a couple of groups actually, as I went to a meeting a while ago, but there's nothing concrete yet. But who knows?
Yeah.
You never know. But like again, that sense of community, living together, cooking together, all of those things, like you were talking about in the blue zones, that help with longevity and mobility in life. Yeah.
Keeping their purpose, keeping their sense of belonging, the
Yeah.
connection, the that's where health comes from down in later in life, is
Hmm.
that part. And
Yeah.
if they're moving their body just by maybe doing something together. It doesn't have to be an
Exactly.
exercise class. Just keep moving,
Just keep
mobility.
and doing it with other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
laughter, the
Yeah.
laughter piece, and finding joy. It's, with the loss of a spouse or partner, that
Mhm.
there's a grieving, and maybe there's also, what's the word? It's that commonality they have, that they've gone through similar
Right.
things, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so how would people get a hold of you, Mary Ellen, and for different things? I guess your health coaching. I know you teach at the Y. I suppose you probably have a website, or how does that work?
Yeah, so the health coaching part, we've kind of just let that go at this point. I
Okay.
mean, people still reach out to us, and we're
Right.
happy to know we're still known in the community. But for real estate, I can be reached. I'm on Instagram and on
Mhm.
Facebook. I have a business page, and I have a
Nice.
business, Google business. They can find me under Keller Williams Capital Realty as one of the realtors. So it's easy to find me. I'm out in the
Yeah.
socials. I have an
Nice.
amazing social media and marketing specialist that helps me be out there. So
Okay.
that's how people could reach me. And the website for Keller Williams Capital Realty gets people to me as well.
Right. And still teaching at the Y with your husband?
Still
That's a
there. Yep.
that's a really nice.
Tuesday and
Yeah,
Thursday.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So some questions I've been asking my guests, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you the same thing too. There's a couple, and I think I've added one. So I will ask the one I've added. I'll ask you first. So what makes you feel most alive in your life?
Being of service.
Of
And it's something
service.
that I've built into, my work. How can I
Yeah.
be of service to others? And
Mm,
I get a lot of joy in being able to contribute to giving back. And it just floats my boat. I really just feel we need so much of that right now on this
mhm,
planet. More love, more kindness, more just taking care of each other.
mhm. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Second question is because, of course, my podcast is called The Soul's Kitchen, and I come from a kitchen background. I want to know what's cooking in people's soul. So, what is your ingredient in your life? It doesn't have to be a food, it can be, what would your uh, thread that has followed you in your life of like an ingredient for a happy life?
Well, I had it tattooed on my wrist for a reason, and that
Mm,
was joy. To
joy,
find joy.
joy.
And what does that look like for me? And it's a
Right.
reminder I can look at joy. And it's not
Yeah.
always there. I think it's a sustaining thing. Happiness comes and goes, but what brings me
Mm,
joy? And to think back
right.
to, and it's tied to my word of the year. My word this year is intention.
Okay, nice. And I
Yeah.
think another word that you use a lot, or what we've talked about a lot too, is community. So that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought your
Yeah.
word was going to be. But no, it's all connected though.
Yeah.
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 And tell us, or if you can think of the biggest lesson you might have learned.
Oh, I think it seems cliche right now, but it's the let them theory from Mel Robbins
Okay.
is just I've really created a purposeful meditation practice in the morning, and it's really allowed me to find the space to think about what is important and to let the other stuff go. Because I can only control my reaction
Right.
and what's in, and there's so much as we know right now that we cannot control on this planet. That
Mm-hmm.
why would I give it one more second? Why will it matter in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years?
Yeah.
That's my kind of my litmus is like, should I then be thinking about it and let my
Yeah.
brain just go rampant with things that don't
Mhm.
bring me joy?
That's a really
None
good
of us are getting
reminder.
out of this. None of us are getting out of
No,
this.
we're not
We're
getting out of it.
all,
You're right.
no. So what is it we can do to elevate the conversations, elevate each other? Like that is
Yeah.
kind of a purpose and thing I'm trying to do just in my day.
Mm.
It makes me
And
feel good, and hopefully it makes the people around me feel good too.
well, I really like that. I can see in your face like you do exude joy. And yeah, thank you for those reminders.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to end it there. I appreciate your time so
Did it.
much. We did
Oh,
it.
my pleasure.
Yeah.
We did
All
it.
right.
Yeah. The mobile
Okay.
office.
The mobile office, right? And I'm in just in my mobile office, I guess, in my living room. Thank you,
Yeah.
Mary Ellen. We'll
Thank
see
you,
you
Lisa. I
around.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it. We'll see you around town.
Okay.
Okay.